Movimiento 10 de Marzo, followed by historical perspective, and very important, a youth voice. And then we will open the floor for Q&A. And each presenter, we've asked them to share their information. Each has about 10 minutes. And we will, after the program, you're all invited to stay and enjoy some more coffee and wine. So I'd like to get started with, let me introduce myself. I'm Deborah Lopez. My field of expertise has been in public affairs and with a focus in community engagement. I'm currently working for the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services in their communications office, and I am the daughter of parents from the movement of the late 60s and early 70s, so I've had the pleasure, of being fortunate to have experienced all that in the late 60s and 70s through the eyes of a little girl and through adulthood. So I'm very proud of that. So to start the program, I'm going to introduce the opening remarks will be given by Yuruku Takashi. Yuruku, your opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for coming and participating in the event, La Primavera del Inmigrante. It is truly my honor to have the opportunity to state the opening remark in front of the prominent leaders of the marches, communities, and the authors of the book, Voces Migrantes 10 de Marzo. It is also my great pleasure to be allowed to learn from this opportunity to discuss the historic mega march in 2006, together with everyone here who participated in the march and or who is interested or concerned about the immigration reform. I'm a researcher of political science from Japan and have been studying about the politics of Mexico over 25 years. You may wonder why I got so much interest in the Voces Migrantes 10 de Marzo and translated it into English. We are working on that right now. There are 3 reasons. First, I deeply respect the work of which Carlos Arango, Omar Lopez, and Jorge Mujica have been dedicated in a binational context. When I was studying about the 2014 electoral reform of Mexico, I learned that they all served council members of the Consejo Consultivo del Instituto de los Mexicanos en el Exterior, which was a consulting body of Mexican government. They significantly contributed to realizing the reform of amplifying the voting rights of Mexican citizens living abroad. Afterward, I was truly impressed when I learned that those same leaders led the March 10th movement, 10 de Marzo, the Movimiento 10 de Marzo, in 2006, the first nationwide protest by immigrants and workers in the United States. Second, the movement spread across the major cities in the United States, but I would like to stress, based on my limited knowledge, that the leaders of Chicago, like Carlos, Omar, and Jorge, are exceptional. They were not only great organizers of movement, but also they provide in-depth analysis of politics and society, consistently pursue social justice, and they propose very concrete reform proposals, programs, and public policies. Not only making speeches, they write and publish their analysis too. They even write history and poems. And there are properties I admire about, these properties I admire about Omar, Carlos, and Jorge. At the same time, I would like to mention that the high organizational capacity, critical thinking, and the tough negotiation skills, coupled with human faith and nobleness, nobleza, are what I observe in leaders of Chicago in general. Third, specifically as for translation project, I was surprised to know that despite such an importance of the March 10th movement, little has been studied, especially in English. However, given that the Primavera del Inmigrante was the first large-scale march instigated by immigrants themselves, this historical event deserves a great recognition. In addition, now we live in a time of the high level of human mobility. the immigration flow has been accelerating around the world. Assuring a decent life and basic human rights for all has become an increasingly and universally important issue. I believe that there are many lessons that we can learn from the invaluable historical document written by the leaders themselves. If the English version is available, the legacy of the movement will be passed on across continent and generations.
Sure.
The event of tonight gives us an opportunity to learn how the authors reflect the 10 de Marzo movimiento 10 de Marzo and discuss the consequences of the march. First off, I would like to appreciate Carlos, Omar, and Jorge to agree to present their reflections and allow me to coordinate the event and translation project. We had an opportunity to learn the perspective of the editor of the book, Pina, and the distinguished historian Juan Mora Torres. And I deeply appreciate that documenting the meetings of the Movimiento 10 de Marzo and directing the interviews of key leaders of the movement. Even though the March 10th movement has an unprecedented event, it could not have been a history without being documented. Their contribution to creating a historical archive of the movement at DePaul University deserves special mention. Now, 17 years have passed since the historical event. The nature and issues of immigration reform has changed as well. To better understand emerging agenda, we need to listen to the voices of young generations. We deeply appreciate Mariana Lopez and Maggie Lugo Granados will come later, and for participating and helping us to learn the voices of the youth. I should mention that great moderation of Deborah Lopez. Her role is crucial to make this event successful. Organizing this event would not be possible without support of many peoples and organizations. First, I would like to appreciate the National Museum of Mexican Art for sponsoring the event. The support from Carlos Todoreo, president of the museum, Rachel Stargan, the director of the special event, and many staff like Kevin and Alex and Jaime, and for making this happen. Second, I acknowledge Thomas Ramirez and for his generous support for the event. Thanks to his help, we will be able to enjoy nice wine during the event. Then, special thanks goes to Juan Matos. Throughout the process of preparing the event, he provided superb logistical support and coordination. I would also like to thank Gonzalo Perez, and president of the FIMO, and he always supporting this kind of community event. And let me mention the delicious pastes yarguenses of Señor Pedro and his family, and live streaming of Luis Carias are indispensable for this event as well. Last but not least, I owe much to the Center for Latino Research at the DePaul University. Their invaluable historical archive of the March 10th movement and Latino Chicago leaders contribute to preserve the legacy of Mexican and Latino leaders in permanence. Director of the center, Bill Johnson Gonzalez, helped enormously to understand the importance of the event and generously sponsors us. Sara Luz Torres helped enormously to advertise the event and support the logistics. I also thank Bill for agreeing to give a closing remark later. So, thank you so much, everybody, and un millón de gracias para todos.